free, prior, and informed consent. The most important words of the day at the AFN. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
Deeper than the headlines.
The answers you need to know.
This is Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
There is a major gathering of First Nations chiefs happening in Ottawa this week, being put on by the Assembly of First Nations. And the chiefs are making their opinions known about the new energy deal between Alberta and Ottawa that could include a pipeline to BC. They don't like it. This is Ontario Regional Chief Abram Benedict.
As construction projects happen, governments change, regulators change, operators change, financiers change. The only thing that will not change is you. The people on the land, the First Nations, the rights holders will continue to be there long after they have all gone. That's why it's extremely important that we educate and we defend our rights, because they will be all gone, and the only thing that will be left is our people, your people, and will be left. We have to make sure it's not through devastation.
Assembly of First Nations National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Nepinak said First Nations rights just can't be wiped away.
On the weekend, we saw a national report on the Alberta-Canada MOU state categorically that the mantra of free, prior, and informed consent from Indigenous communities is gone, as if First Nations rights can be wiped away with one federal provincial MOU. It was difficult to watch BC and many First Nations excluded from these discussions, particularly on the Pacific Coast. So we lift up all chiefs impacted for their passion and for their leadership, regardless of their position. Chiefs, of course, have different views on development, and this is to be celebrated. I told the press that this morning, not feared or used against us as a wedge to try and divide us.
Later in the day, a resolution calling for the deal between Ottawa and Alberta to be nullified passed without a single no vote. Donald Eggers is the chief councillor for the Old Masset Village Council in British Columbia. He moved the resolution.
Chiefs, whether you support the pipeline or not, we can all agree that any government must seek our free and prior and informed consent before any proposed projects take place on our land and waters. This MOU provides no such assurances. The MOU enables the government to do business as usual, despite legal requirements to uphold the UN Declaration. This MOU sets us back decades. Not just the recklessness language that undermines all First Nations rights, but we have all been down this road before. I take us back to former Enbridge pipeline, which sought to ram through our territories without our consent. Make no mistake, First Nations in BC stood in unity then, and we stand together now.
Merle Alexander is a hereditary chief in BC. He's also one of the top lawyers in the country practicing Indigenous resource law.
The possibility of a catastrophic oil pipeline like burst would destroy the very livelihood of the Central Coast. I also think it's important to remember that Trudeau had a grand bargain of balance where he chose to approve the Trans Mountain pipeline, but then put in place the Oil Moratorium Act and rejected the Northern Gateway project. This MOU, if implemented, would completely reverse that balance, as well as amend a number of, create exceptions for another 7 other environmental provisions, including issues around cap emissions. So this is really a step backwards, and it obviously the possibilities of a catastrophic event would completely destroy and eliminate the very Aboriginal and treaty rights that are protected currently.
Prime Minister Carney made an appearance at this assembly yesterday afternoon. He sought to assure the chiefs that nothing will be done without their free, prior, and informed consent.
It is about a large number of things that are with respect to Alberta. What they are going to do with nuclear power, if anything. What they're going to do with artificial intelligence. What they are going to do with their pricing system. What they're going to do with carbon capture, an environmental way to make conventional energy more environmental. So there's a huge element there in the relationship, which is between the federal government and Alberta. If any of those issues, and many of them do, touch Treaty 6, 7, 8 rights holders, other rights holders in Alberta, of course, that consultation has to happen. And then there's the fundamental point very effectively made, and I hear that point.
During his remarks, Prime Minister Carney also pledged to hold a federal, provincial, territorial meeting with First Nations. He said that would happen early in the new year, and First Nations will set the agenda for that meeting. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio.
Putting out fires. The Carney government, now in its final couple of weeks of the House of Commons session before the Christmas break, is trying to dampen some flames. Among the problems for the government, layoffs. Layoffs in the forestry sector, layoffs in the auto sector, layoffs in the steel industry. Being reported today, the federal government has given Stellantis $220 million over the years, money for upgrades to plants in Ontario. But that wasn't enough government money to prevent Stellantis from canceling plans to build the Jeep Compass in Brampton and shift production to Illinois instead. Opposition MPs have been trying to figure out just how much money the government has given to this company and how many jobs that money was supposed to guarantee. The industry minister, Melanie Joly, hasn't said so far, even when pressed by MPs at committee meetings.
Surely you can tell us if there was a 3,000-person jobs guarantee for Brampton, and that's not commercially sensitive information. So it is concerning to me that you're not committing that there was a jobs guarantee for the Brampton facility.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
So you're saying that there is?
I'm saying that all the plants were linked and all the contracts are linked. So you will be able to see it when we will be producing.
But if there wasn't a jobs guarantee of 3,000 people at Brampton, which is the whole reason you're here, then how is it that you're tying all of the money to a jobs guarantee that may or may not exist? You should be able to tell us if there is a jobs guarantee for the 3,000 jobs in Brampton.
I think you're falling into the trap of trying to find a problem where there's none.
Well, the problem is that 3,000 people were laid off,
the government
and
was
your government committed millions and billions, in fact, of dollars.
Well, MP Dencho, I don't know whether you want this to be a monologue or you want me to appear. Because
the question
if
I'm asking you is very clear.
I don't need to be here.
From Brampton to Sault Ste. Marie, that's where Algoma Steel sent out layoff notices to 1,000 workers this week. They'll be out of a job come March. Melanie Joly is thinking about those workers too.
My thoughts are definitely with the workers, their families. I know this is a tough time, and I know this is a tough time, particularly just before Christmas.
But Joly is predicting things will get better for Algoma because of the government's plans.
Our Buy Canada policy is working. Algoma has now received orders from Irving shipyards and also from Seaspan, two important shipyards across the country. Now, is it enough? We still need to be at it. And I know that this is not a perfect answer to those who are affected. But my point is we'll continue to fight for these jobs. We'll be working with the union. We'll be working with the company. And we'll make sure that the future can be brighter right now for the steel workers and the steel sector.
The Carney government now has another problem. The government watchdog says the government's new housing plan actually cuts government spending for housing and won't deliver nearly as many housing units as the government has been claiming. According to the parliamentary budget officer, government spending on housing programs will be cut in half in the next 4 years. And the report says the program will build just 26,000 new housing units between now and the year 2030. The Liberals have promised to build 500,000 homes a year through their program called Build Canada Homes. Gregor Robertson is the housing minister. The press gallery had some questions for him.
The report found that it's set to build far less affordable housing than initially pitched. What message does that send to Canadians who are still trying to find affordable housing? Is this not a priority for this government?
Affordable housing is a huge priority for this government.
Why are you spending less?
Build Canada Homes, this is the very beginning. This is the first stage of the investment in affordable housing and creating a one-stop shop. We've just opened the portal to invite proposals. We want the private sector to partner with us. And this is about scaling up that work. Over this year, we're going to see in 2026 significant investment in the housing enabling infrastructure. So the water, the sewer, the roads, the transit, the community investments that we need to unlock tens of thousands of units of housing across the country as well that the private sector can build. So it's a combination of investing in housing and in the community infrastructure that supports housing.
The PBO says it's only going to build 26,000 homes. Do you agree with that assessment that the programs you build are only going to build 26,000?
Well, I've got to go into detail, look at their numbers, but I think that's just based on the raw number. It's not based on attracting a lot of investment from provinces, from the private sector, and making sure that we're modernizing the industry and delivering more homes per dollar.
Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre jumped on the PBO's report, saying the Liberals are more interested in building bureaucracy than building houses, leading to this exchange with Prime Minister Carney.
He promised during the election he would double home building to 500,000 units per year. Today, the parliamentary budget officer revealed that his brand new bureaucracy will only build 5,000 homes per year, 99% less than he promised, Mr. Speaker, after Conservatives built well over 200,000 homes at half the cost today. Why won't he listen to us and stop building bureaucracy so that we can start building homes?
The right honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the great thing about being a lifelong member of Parliament is you've never built anything and you don't know numbers.
True.
And you don't. And you don't even read the PBO report, which says it will contribute to projects containing 86,868 units, 130,000 a unit. That is what we're doing, Mr. Speaker.
As for the political day ahead, it is caucus day. On Parliament Hill every Wednesday, the parties all gather with their MPs and those that have senators, and they talk shop. Prime Minister Carney is expected back in question period today. Seated in the gallery of the House of Commons today will be the Canadian tennis star and champion Victoria Mboko. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
Well, in cross-country weather news, this was the second day of the nor'easter that's been blowing through Atlantic Canada. Lots of power outages on mainland Nova Scotia, primarily in the western, northwestern part of the province. Very heavy rain in Halifax this morning, coupled with high winds gusting to about 50 kilometers an hour. All of Atlantic Canada was impacted by that storm, from Yarmouth, Nova Scotia to the most northern tip of Newfoundland and Labrador. It's pretty much a Cape Breton Island, Newfoundland thing now. It's pretty much blown out of Halifax, shaping up to be a pretty decent day in the Nova Scotia capital, actually, with this afternoon's forecast calling for a mix of sun and cloud and a high of +3. The story in this part of the country is nothing like +3. We would take that. It's cold. Maybe it's the polar vortex. Whatever it is, on the chilly side in parts of Ontario and Quebec, temperatures in some parts of our region close to Ottawa really going to plummet. Starting tomorrow, it's going to feel like -25. And then Friday morning, it'll feel closer to -30, and it's not even winter yet. Both Hydro-Quebec And in Ontario, the IESO, which manages the Ontario electricity grid, they're both saying they expect very high electricity demand over the next couple of days because of the cold. Nothing out of the ordinary for our friends in Calgary this time of year. Mix of sun and cloud, high -3. Normal daytime high for Calgary for this time of year is around 0. Overnight low of -12, so nothing they can't handle. Someone in Canada is soon going to have a very special Christmas if they hit it big. There has still been no winner of the Lotto Max jackpot. So this Friday's draw is going to be for $70 million. And then there's 10 additional $1 million prizes. So 80 million all told up for grabs. And the 649 is up there too with the gold ball jackpot rising to $36 million. The traditional 649 jackpot, $5 million. That draw is tonight. And someone is sitting on a $40 million ticket that has yet to be claimed. $40 million just sitting there for the taking. It's from the October 27th Lotto Max draw. The ticket was sold in Grey County in southern Ontario. That's the Owen Sound area. So check those wallets and purses and under the sofa cushions. You never know. You could be a multi-millionaire. I noticed the Toronto Blue Jays have signed another pitcher. His name is Cody Ponce. He doesn't have much of a major league resume, but he just won the MVP award for the Korean Baseball League. It's a 3-year deal with the Toronto Blue Jays, worth about $10 million a season. In the Korean League, Ponce went 17-1 with a 1.89 ERA, but it's the Korean League, not the major leagues. So Jays watchers are saying that with this signing, and then the previous signing just a few days ago of Dylan Cease, the pitching staff is starting to take shape for the Jays, and it could be the end of the road for Jose Barrios as a pitcher for the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm Rob Snow. Our Newsday panel is coming up right after the latest breaking news here on News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
It's time for the Wednesday Newsday political panel with Melissa Bruno, principal at Earnscliffe Strategies. How are you, Melissa? Welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to hear from you. Ashton Arsenault is partner at Crestview Strategies. Great to hear from you, Ashton.
Good to be here, Rob. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. It could be warmer. There could be a lot less snow. I could be in the Caribbean, but otherwise I'm okay. I've been thinking a lot about me lately and what's in it for me. And maybe some Canadians are wondering that as well. What's in it for me? When pollsters ask Canadians, you know, what's the top issue these days? It's always the cost of living. And it's really not even close. It's the cost of living way at the top of that list. Now, the Prime Minister, to his credit, to his detriment, I don't know, seems more focused on securing trade deals abroad, moving ahead with major projects. What can he do, Melissa, to show Canadians that he's actually doing something about their biggest concern, which is their day-to-day financial anxieties? What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I think people need to see tangible short-term relief measures, like things like cutting the federal tax on essentials like food, or rebates and credits like the GST credit or the child benefit. And, you know, as somebody who has 2 little kids, like, let me tell you, they are quite expensive. And, you know, so I think the government needs to focus a lot more on what's in it for people type messaging, instead of announcing measures that feel, you know, really abstract, like trade measures or diversification measures. And that's not to say that that work isn't important, but there needs to be a balance so people feel secure enough to be patient to see the positive effects of these trade negotiations that the feds are so focused on.
Okay. Melissa has 2 little kids. So Melissa has no money. That's the way it goes.
And my health is also compromised.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Ashton, what can Prime Minister Carney do to show that he even understands Canadians' day-to-day financial anxieties?
Yeah, I'll go a different direction. I think the immediate answers to make Canada a more attractive place to do business, a more attractive place to invest in, that's obviously easier said than done. There are some absolutely horrible graphs out there showcasing stagnant wage growth over more than a decade, worse statistics about how housing costs have ballooned, productivity is trash. The reality is the country has been doing many sort of meaningless side quests out of political expediency and ideology for far too long, and Canadians are paying the price, paying more at the pumps, paying more at the grocery store, paying more for rent, and so on. And unfortunately, it's all become a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Taxes way too high on businesses that generate the wealth that Canadians are craving. There is no consistency in federal policy making, which makes us terrible. We are not attractive to invest in, and I think the Prime Minister would do well to start looking at those two items. We are a rich country in so many ways. Let's leverage that so our people can be rich too.
Okay. Let's just build on this a little bit. Melissa, do you think as the months go on that maybe this is one of the Prime Minister's shortcomings for all his strengths? Maybe this is one of his shortcomings, that he doesn't come across as someone who understands the real worry out there about finances among ordinary Canadians. What would you say?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think most people, at least that I know, are not paying attention to what's happening in the House of Commons. And, you know, I think they need to understand more concretely, like, what benefit do they receive in their daily life if we secure a trade deal with another country? How many jobs does that create in the community in which they live on? And I think, like, that type of messaging will help connect, you know, some of the big picture strategies that the federal government is so focused on to the impacts that are felt by everyday Canadians.
Okay. I mean, Ashton, is this a Prime Minister that can appear out of touch sometimes when it comes to these Main Street pocketbook issues?
Yeah, I think Melissa had a great point. You know, the Prime Minister, I don't know if anybody would call him particularly approachable. He's playing sort of three-dimensional chess while the rest of Canada operates on a very outdated checkerboard, right? And the checkerboard is probably missing a couple of pieces at that. So I do think a lot of this is addressed by a bit of a different communication strategy, but communication strategy only gets you so far. If you don't have the policy to back it up and if people aren't feeling it in real time, it's meaningless.
Okay. When we come back, we will talk about some of the other problems that this Carney government is facing. There's a fresh report from the Parliamentary Budget Officer on the government's housing program that says the federal government's spending on housing is going to be cut in half over 3 years, and it's only going to build a fraction of the homes that the government claims. And layoff woes at a time when the government has been shoveling money out the door at breakneck speed to companies like Algoma and Stellantis, and yet still job losses are mounting. When we come back, it's our Wednesday Newsday political panel. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know, and this is News Radio.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues
on News Radio.
We're here on our Wednesday Newsday political panel with Melissa Bruno from Earnscliffe Strategies and Ashton Arsenault from Crestview. Well, it's not a flattering PBO report on the government's housing program, Build Canada Homes. It says the federal government spending on housing is going to be cut in half over the next 3 years, and the program's going to build a fraction of the homes the government claims. What's your reaction to that, Ashton, that report?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's been trending in the wrong direction for a while. The big federal responsibility here, or irresponsibility really, is on the immigration front and further on the macroeconomic front. You know, the government has realized far too late they took the immigration game too far, and it has literally directly impacted the situation. But I also think it's more than fair to say this isn't exclusively a federal challenge. Provinces, municipalities, they are absolutely to blame as well. And so you're the federal government, what can you really do, right? And I'd like to think the answer to that is carrots and sticks, so we'll give more funds to those provinces who are hitting our housing benchmarks, and we will withhold funds from those provinces that don't. And I think that creates accountability because, then it's sort of in the province's court to get those municipalities to fall in line. So I like that as one immediate solution, but it's kind of a complex problem, to be honest.
Okay, yeah, we can explore that a little bit more. Melissa, I mean, what's your reaction to this? This is a signature program from the Carney government. What do you make of this report from the PBO?
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree that it's a complex problem that, frankly, requires all three levels of government. But I do think that the federal government can do a lot, particularly on the financial side of things. There are obviously funding programs for developers and nonprofits to incentivize them to build affordable housing. There are tax policy or tax incentives to get new rental construction built. Obviously, Ashton mentioned the immigration policy, which directly affects housing demand. But there's also, the larger infrastructure supports that housing developments need, like water and sewers. But ultimately, cities control the rules that decide whether housing actually gets built. And so I think that the federal government has been trying to use funding leverage, like the Housing Accelerator Fund, where municipalities can only access those crucial federal dollars if they change zoning barriers and speed up development approvals to get housing built faster. And I think those types of programs are a good step forward.
Yeah. Do you get the sense, though, Melissa, that the municipalities are playing along? I mean, so much of the housing planning phase is at the municipal level. There's only so much the federal government can do. How cooperative, in your opinion, have municipalities been? They're great at asking for money, but are they playing along?
Yeah, I think it's varied in terms of which municipalities are sort of playing ball and which ones aren't. I think the size of the municipality or the size of the council also matters because obviously sometimes with smaller councils it's a little bit easier to get things through council quicker. But yeah, there's no doubt that municipalities have a lot more work to do in terms of doing their part to seeing housing built faster.
I mean, I can think of three cities. I mean, the city of Ottawa, where I was on the radio for 20 years. I mean, the city of Ottawa said, yeah, we're not going to meet our housing targets, but we want the money anyway. In the city of Calgary, they didn't meet housing targets. The government withheld money from the Housing Accelerator Fund. In Toronto, where they were supposed to, embrace things like fourplexes, for example, and intensification. They didn't do that. They only did it in select neighborhoods, and they did not withhold money from the Housing Accelerator Fund for the city of Toronto. Maybe because there's so many Liberal seats in Toronto. I don't know. Those are just my suspicions, but it seems the response sometimes from the federal government is haphazard to Ashton, your carrot and stick approach as well.
Yeah, I think you've raised a really good point. There's no, consistent application of the rules. But the reality is, I mean, if actions don't have consequences, you're going to be in this scenario over and over and over again. And to me, if you want to get somebody to move on something, withhold something from them. And in the case of provinces, it's money. And I don't necessarily like the negotiating strategy whereby, it's the federal government that has to have some sort of carriage and oversight over municipalities. That's a provincial responsibility, quite frankly. And so the federal government's stick is, hey, Province X, we're not going to give any money out under these programs if municipality Y doesn't fall in line. And that's the only way this works. It's the only way it works.
Okay, when we come back, we'll talk about what we're learning about Algoma and Stellantis, how much money has gone out the door to these companies. And yet these companies are moving production to the United States, issuing layoff notices. We'll be back. It's our Newsday panel. This is News Radio.
You have questions.
Now You Know with Rob Snow has the answers.
On News Radio.
Melissa Bruno is principal at Earnscliffe Strategies. Ashton, Arsenault's partner at Crestview Strategies. It's our Wednesday Newsday political panel. I mean, the news is not great on the jobs front anyway, but the Carney government, we are now learning, offered Algoma a $400 million loan, and the company still issued 1,000 layoff notices. Whether it's because of Trump's tariffs or the electric arc furnace or a combination of the two, it's 1,000 people who will be out of work in March. It's also been reported the government has given Stellantis $220 million over the years to upgrade facilities, and still the company's moving production to Illinois. What does this say about the government's ability to secure guarantees from these companies, job guarantees, Melissa?
Well, I think it tells us that the government has limited leverage once that public money is out the door. And, these companies operate globally. And unless governments tie funding to strict job guarantees and clawbacks, taxpayers are going to continue to be left holding the bag when things go sideways. And there's no reason why taxpayer money shouldn't come with strings attached, because when companies like Algoma Steel make significant layoffs like this, it has severe, far-reaching effects, not only for the workers' families, but the well-being of entire cities. So I think governments need clear metrics about how many jobs will be guaranteed, and more importantly, what penalties exist if the commitments aren't met for any future agreements that the government makes for deals relating to tariff relief.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well said. I mean, 1,000 jobs out of Sault Ste. Marie. Sault Ste. Marie's only 70,000 people or something like that. This has ripple effects well beyond these just 1,000 job losses. This is going to be felt all over the city, all over that region. What does this say, though, Ashton, about the government's ability to secure guarantees, job guarantees from these companies?
Yeah,
Shouldn't we be doing a better job?
Right. Yeah, Melissa's right. There should be no such thing as free money without consequences for these companies. And obviously, it's a difficult situation in Northern Ontario. Nobody really likes to hear about someone losing their job. I think on this one, according to the CEO at least, it was trending this way to begin with. But some trade irritants, of course, have sped up that process. And I think it actually speaks more to a fundamental problem that we have in Canada. Do we want to be a nation that needs to fork over hundreds of millions of dollars to get a company to set up shop here, or do we want to be a nation that has an attractive economy where these companies want to come and do business? And I think for far too long, we've been leaning into the former. I'd like to start leaning into the latter. There's a reason why companies want to do business in the United States over Canada. Their tax rates are better, their incentives are higher. And it's really quite that simple. And until there are some structural changes made in how we approach this, it's going to keep happening.
Okay, very quickly, we only have about a minute and a half left here. Mark Miller is back in cabinet. I would suggest off to a rocky start, but that's more of a Quebec thing. Why was he excluded, do you think, Ashton? And what does he bring to cabinet that, I don't know, maybe the Carney team was missing?
I think the only reason he was probably left on the cutting room floor to begin with was because he sort of carries around a heavy dose of Trudeau stench, them being close friends and all. But, I mean, the portfolio he's in is a disaster. I don't know if you've ever talked with somebody that has to deal with the CRTC, but it's totally terrible. And I'm not sure anybody's going to be able to fix it off the hop, but he's a pretty steady hand at the till. So, I wasn't terribly surprised to see him get back in.
Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, the PM was a bit limited in who could replace Guilbeault, because I think there was a regional balance that was needed to be considered, since both of them are from Quebec. And it's coming at a time where, frankly, Carney's top bench is really fumbling things with First Nations. And I think Miller will bring some of his experience to hopefully managing some of those relationships better than what's currently taking place.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Great to hear from both of you today. We'll speak soon.
Thanks, Rob.
All the best. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
That's Melissa Bruno from Earnscliffe Strategies and Ashton Arsenault from Crestview. Talkback is coming up right after the latest breaking news. This is News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. It's 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. And today's topic is a big one because it's MAID. Medical assistance in dying. And here's what we want to know. Let's get right to it. Do you think Canadians should be allowed to access MAID if their only condition is mental illness? Yes or no? Why not? MAID, medical assistance in dying. Should Canadians be allowed to access MAID if their only medical condition is mental illness? The government is grappling with this right now. It has been grappling with this for years. This was supposed to be the law of the land already. This was supposed to come into effect in 2023, this major expansion of MAID. But the government delayed it until 2024. And then 2024 came and the government said, we're going to delay it again for 3 years until 2027. Well, now it's almost 2026. And unless something changes, this will come into effect in March of 2027. And people who have mental illness and only a mental illness, whose death is not reasonably foreseeable, will be allowed to have MAID. And we want to know, do you think that should be allowed in this country? 1-833-668-2577. It's not the cheeriest of topics, I know, but a very important one. A very important one. There's a great column in one of the papers today, John Ivison in the Post, suggesting that Prime Minister Mark Carney should have another look at this and should revisit this planned expansion of MAID and possibly even reverse course and put an end to it. Not MAID, but the expansion of MAID. What do you think? What do you think? 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. We have lines available. You see, when the original MAID law was written, this is not how the government envisioned it. When the original MAID law was passed almost a decade ago now, it's been that long, almost a decade. The language in the law said natural death had to be reasonably foreseeable. But that law was challenged in court in Quebec by two people whose death was not reasonably foreseeable. They wanted MAID because they suffered from degenerative illnesses that eroded their quality of life, and they suffered from debilitating pain on a daily basis, and the court in Quebec sided with them. The MAID law was deemed unconstitutional, so the Parliament amended the law, and it repealed that requirement that a person's natural death be reasonably foreseeable. That was a big change. And then, at the behest of a small group of senators, this planned expansion of MAID was added. And MAID would become available to people whose only underlying condition is a mental illness. And as I said, it was supposed to come into effect in 2023. Now it's almost the end of 2025. If everything goes according to the timeline, this will be the state of the MAID regime in this country in a little more than a year from now. And it is something that has both supporters and critics. Supporters are saying there's no great difference between a mental illness and a physical illness, and to suggest so is actually discriminatory, as both can be debilitating, and it should be left up to the individual. And the autonomy of the individual should be respected. And even if the illness is not, say, terminal cancer, the person with mental illness should be allowed to access MAID. Critics say they have all kinds of problems with this. It would be terrible. This is one of their arguments. It would be terrible for vulnerable people, for low-income people, for people with inadequate housing, lack of social welfare supports, the poor, the disabled. Do we want poor Canadians opting for MAID because they're depressed about life? And critics say there are treatments for most mental illnesses, and there's no need for sufferers of mental illness to access MAID. Mental illness can be managed. Mental illness can be treated. MAID. The Liberals have overseen all of this. The Liberals were in power when MAID came into effect because of a ruling from the Supreme Court. As I say, almost a decade ago now. It was the Liberal government that had to expand MAID the first time, and it's a Liberal government that could expand MAID again to include people with only mental illness. The Conservative Party's position is this expansion should not go ahead. And the amendment to the law that allowed this expansion to get this far should be repealed. There has been absolutely no indication, I must say, from the new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, that he is even interested in a topic like this. But we are, and we are interested in knowing what you think about it. 1-833-668-2577, 1-833-668-2577. Should MAID be allowed if someone's only medical condition is mental illness? Yes, no, why not? 1-833-668-2577 is our call-in line. If you've never called before, just mention that to us. We have lots of time to talk about this one today. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
So the topic today is MAID, heavy duty, I know, but we have to talk about it. Should MAID be allowed if someone's only medical condition is mental illness? What do you think? 1-833-668-2577. The country is on track to allow that. Should that be allowed? Or is that going too far with MAID? What do you think? Daniel up next in Calgary. Hi, Daniel.
Hey, Snow. How you doing?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Yeah, good to hear from you. What's your opinion?
As a mental health patient that has tried to commit suicide 3 times, I am totally in favor of it. I apologize if I sound funny, but because of my mental condition, it affects my speech.
Okay.
So I once I was diagnosed with FND, functional neurological disorder, after being assaulted as a security guard in Walmart. It took me years to understand that what I was experiencing is far beyond my control. Being all my life a control freak, I couldn't handle it. I lost family, friends. I lost everything. So when, sorry. Oh.
It's okay.
When that came about as an option, for me, it was a vindication that what I was feeling have gone beyond people's opinions, and they were more based on us, the patients. I was raised in a sturdy family. You know, there's no such thing as mental health. Walk it up, Nancy, drill sergeant kind of environment.
Okay.
And
okay.
For me to deal with the things with PTSD and things like that was, yeah, I didn't want to cope with it. And when the government allowed us to have that alternative, it was a breather. I felt less guilty about me going somewhere and sneak around and do it by myself like I was committing a crime. So
you
that's
feel
my
validated. Opinion. Okay. So when it's not allowed now, but when it is allowed, will you seek it out?
Shout out to Dr. Virginia Newton. She have helped me in my crisis a lot of time, free of charge. I try all the help that the government could give me here. I'm a taxpayer. I have been a decent, non-criminal record, a decent person all my life. So, yes, I will. Yes.
Okay. Well. All right.
To the point that I cannot take the pain anymore because it affects your nerve endings. So, yes, I want to know that it's nobody else's business and that I'm supported by the government.
This goes to the personal autonomy argument, for sure. Yeah, and equality as well. Yeah, there are charter challenges based on equality rights as well, equality under the law, equal benefit of the law. Thank you, and all the best to you. And I mean that. Daniel, thank you. An emotional start to Talkback today. Reagan, also in Calgary today.
Hey.
Or is it Regan?
It's Regan.
Regan.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. What's your opinion?
My opinion is the hospital is what you make it. So I go see the addictions and mental health section of the hospital, and like I've been very in debt before, and that's put me in a lot of vulnerable positions. So I just think you're dealing with a vulnerable person, and technically it's up to every person to be able to better the situation. You know, like it's like the hospital just is what you make it. I think it's a simple point. I don't think you should blanket clause everybody and try and introduce euthanasia to those to just outright vulnerable people.
Okay, so you think it's going a bit too far? You're worried that it goes a bit too far?
I was put on Alberta Works, cleared up lots of my stuff. I'm not in too much debt anymore. I have resources. We live in a world with lots of resources, and it makes life a little easier. I think people just need to be a little more connected to strategies.
Right. See, this is one of the concerns, Regan, that's been raised by people who advocate for better social welfare programs, better.
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of the
as you say, Alberta Works payments, or better, social housing or community housing conditions. What if people are, in a financial bind like you were, or they are suffering from a disability and have to rely on government stipends as their only source of income, and they feel as though their situation is desperate? Is that the reason you want people seeking out MAID?
No, I don't want people seeking out MAID. I think we're too resourced in this day and age. Like from the days of calling into the bank, now we have stuff like NFT and Sam Altman, which can help you pull funds from those specifics, because everyone seems to have something. They just don't know why they're not succeeding.
Okay, thank you. So there you go. We're off and running here on Talkback today on MAID. As I say, heavy duty, emotional topic. Important because the countdown is on to an expansion of MAID in this country. There were almost already 25,000 requests for MAID last year, and more than 16,000 MAID procedures performed last year. By far and away the most permissive regime of its kind in the world is MAID in Canada. Some people think it's gone too far already. It needs to be reined in, but that's not the plan. The government's plan is to expand it to people whose only medical condition is mental illness. Where do you stand on that? 1-833-668-2577, and have your say on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
At the heart of our discussion today is this question: is the government making MAID too widely available by planning to expand eligibility for MAID to people whose only medical condition is mental illness? Is that making the MAID regime in Canada too permissive? What would you say? 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. A fifth is in Waterloo today. Fifth up next on Talkback.
Hey.
Hi, Fifth. What would you say? Yeah, very good. Thank you. Go ahead.
So I would say like MAID should not be for like mental health illness because I mean I have mental health illness as well. Like I have anxiety, depression, and just like the last guy said, there is a lot of help around for that. So like you don't have to I don't have to go for MAID ever because I know because I can get help and I can get everybody to help me out and calm me down and make me better and fix this issue rather than just hey I can't live with it anymore and just goodbye. So I think it's not right for just mental health. Other stuff like if there's like any debilitating issue where you can't move or you have so much pain or anything like that, yeah, it will be fine.
Yes.
But for mental health illness, no.
Right. Okay. So you do think it would be going too far?
Oh yeah. Way too far.
There's help available. There are treatments. There are therapies. There's counseling. There's resources.
Exactly. Yes. There's a lot of stuff to help you out, like with that. There's also medications as well, because I mean, I take like medication for anxiety as well. So I mean, like there's also that. So that's why I'm just saying, if just for mental health illness, is not. It shouldn't be there.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Afif, for your call. It has a great deal of people worried that if the government really moves ahead with this, that the medical assisted suicide law in this country it will become way too permissive. And when you think of the timeline, it will mean that in a little more than a decade here in Canada, this country will have gone from having a total ban on doctor assisted suicide to having the most accommodative law in the world. And that is upsetting for some people and unsettling. I think back to the original case about the Sue Rodriguez case of 30 years ago. Sue Rodriguez was denied by the Supreme Court of Canada what we now call MAID, doctor-assisted suicide. We called it back then. She had ALS and was denied. It would be, and it was deemed to be a criminal act if a doctor helps somebody end their own life. And then we had a new law that said, well, only if you're terminally ill and your death is reasonably foreseeable, and you have to meet all of these conditions. And then we moved from that to serious incurable illness, disease, or disability. Some thought that was a step too far, and this is the next big step. MAID for mental illness, depression, anxiety, PTSD. Is that what Canadians had in mind when we started down this road? Are you okay with that? What do you think? 1-833-668-2577. And have your say on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Should MAID be permitted if someone's only medical condition is mental illness? Something else that makes this newsworthy is a major government report was released this week about MAID. It's kind of like the year in review in MAID. 25,000 requests in Canada for MAID last year, and 16,500 Canadians received MAID. 16,500. Keeps going up every year. The rate of growth has slowed, but it was still a 7% increase in MAID procedures in 2024 compared to the year before. The growth rate used to be much higher than that. It was like year after year. Some years it was like 37%. There are what they call it tracks. There are two tracks of MAID. Track 1 is for people whose death is reasonably foreseeable. That's the vast majority of cases. 95% of all cases, death is reasonably foreseeable. The rest are what's known as track 2 cases. That's the remainder. It's just a little under 5% where death is not reasonably foreseeable. And in most of those cases, for track 2, according to this report, they involve long-term neurological or chronic conditions. The median age for someone who opts for MAID is now 78 years old. It's usually more men than women on track 1 anyway. On track 2, it's more women than men. Not sure why. Cancer, though, remains the leading underlying condition for MAID, terminal cancer. More than 95% of Canadians who choose MAID are white. Not sure why that's the case. 74% have received some palliative care. A third have received care for a disability. There are more than 2,200 medical professionals who perform the MAID procedure. The overwhelming majority of them are doctors at 93%. The balance are nurse practitioners. What else is in this report? Yeah, when someone tries to get MAID through Track 2, it's much harder to qualify for MAID through Track 2. Track 2 MAID cases make up about 5% of all cases, but 25% are denied. But now the plan is to expand it and to include mental illness as an eligibility for MAID. Your only underlying medical condition, mental illness. And we're asking, should that be allowed today? Here on News Radio on Talkback, thank you for waiting. I just wanted to get those facts and figures out there for you. Jim in central Alberta today. Thanks for calling, Jim.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yes, thank you. What's your opinion?
I'm not sure what the right answer is. My application is in for MAID for a variety of medical conditions. For somebody with mental conditions, to be honest, I don't know. Can they not be helped? Can they not be helped?
Some people say they can be helped. Yes. But others will say mental illnesses can be as debilitating as, say, a physical illness.
Oh, absolutely. I've been down both roads.
Right. Yeah. So it's, I'm not saying there's an easy answer. Right. Yeah.
No, there is no easy answer. Sorry, I hurt. So if I groan in your ear, I apologize.
That's okay. I appreciate that.
I think it should be left up to the individual.
Okay.
With the right counseling and the right doctors.
Right. Okay.
Okay, in my case, I'm tired of pain.
Yes.
The only reason I'm here now is because I have an 18-year-old dog, and I can't bear the thought of her going to a strange home.
I see.
So she will, I doubt she'll see spring. So, like I say, my MAID application is in. I'm waiting for my first house visit.
Okay. To be assessed.
Because I understand it. Yeah, if I understand it, I get two assessments. They come out to my house. So I'm waiting for the first one.
Right. Okay.
But,
and you're hanging in there because of your dog. Well, that's they have that effect on you as a dog owner. I can appreciate that.
Absolutely.
But yeah. Yep. Well, Jim, look, all the best to you. But I appreciate that you think it should be left up to it's about the relationship between the individual and the doctor. Fair enough, sir. Valid opinion. Absolutely, and all the best to you. To Robin in Halifax. Thanks for calling, Robin. You're on the air, Robin.
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, you're welcome, Robin. What would you say about this?
I was just listening to the last gentleman and feeling my heart break for him.
Yes.
As for, should mental health be equivalent to physical health? I have varying ideas about that. Physical health, you can sometimes heal from that, but mental health is very different. It's like a cancer that it grows inside. And I have been watching MAID for many years and the things that are going on with it. And I guess I would be that 5%. But I have, I've been depressed for 15 years. I've taken every medication. I've done every treatment, and it just doesn't help. I did attempt a suicide in 2017. My children found me. So I want to address the pride. With someone who has mental illness, they have a very low self-esteem because they're often not understood. So I want to have the decision to use my pride and say, I want to go when it's my time, and I want that option to be available for my kids to know that this was an illness. Because mental illness is blamed for so many things, and it's so misunderstood. And yes, obviously, for that 5%, it would have to be in consult with the physician. But I don't think anybody who's going to go through MAID will take it seriously. It's not something that's a flibberty-gibberty, as it's just it's too big an avenue from pain that people who haven't experienced it cannot possibly realize. That's what I have.
Well, thank you. All the best to you.
Me on a happy
as
day.
well. That's you on a happy day. Well, okay. All right. I know it's not a happy topic, but I find it to be a very important topic. It's just a debate that's crying to be had. Not everyone will agree with your position, and we've heard both sides of it now. And let's keep the conversation going here. MAID for mental illness, and only mental illness. Should that be allowed in this country? Or is that going too far? 1-833-668-2577. It's Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Should someone whose only underlying medical condition is mental illness be eligible for MAID in this country? They're not right now, but they could be, and are on track to be by March of 2027. What do you think? 1-833-668-2577. Aaron up next on Talkback. Hi, Aaron.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for
hi there.
taking my call.
You're welcome.
What's
your opinion?
Say I see both sides. I am in healthcare, and particularly with youth, and have also had family members who have taken their own life from a mental health perspective. I know what it's like to live with addiction and all of those kinds of things, and so I see the complexity in it. I would, however, as a healthcare professional, love to see our government putting funds towards more resources that don't end life rather than take the life of somebody. For example, I would never put a weapon in the hand of somebody who's having a weak moment for them to say, go ahead and do it. And I think that's the slippery slope of allowing mental health to be legalized or expanded in this country. I'm also weary of the notion of the government, if they're disguising mental health and the well-being of our citizens and the people living in our country with a greater motivation to save funds on Alberta healthcare, because long-term care is difficult, it's expensive, and a cheaper option is to offer an end-of-life situation in that point of view, which I never thought of, was brought to my attention earlier before, and I thought, is this a goal disguised by our government that is more financial rather than the well-being?
Well, that's long been a suspicion of the critics. Will the government be more inclined to, say, in the case that we're talking about today, mental illness, boost funding for treatments, therapies, counseling, whatever the case might be? Or is it easier for the government to expand eligibility for MAID? Maybe for some, that's kind of a crass way of looking at it, but that's one way to look at it.
And not without the sensitivity of understanding that everybody struggles and they go through some really difficult moments. It's not the place. I see the human side of it, but I'm also very skeptical of the government side of it, I guess, is the only point that I'm bringing up here, is that what's the motivation behind it? Is it truly for the well-being of our fellow citizens, or is it an underlying government question? And I myself could probably do better research in this and looking at, you have other cultures that take care of each other generationally, and it doesn't sound like MAID is going to be anything that they'll be debating anytime soon. Are we, in just a different culture where we don't know how to
I'm telling you a statistic that jumps out from this government report that was released on Monday. 95% of Canadians who choose MAID are white.
Yes. And that's maybe something that we need to look at inside of our own homes and our own walls and the well-being.
What's going on there? Sure.
Of our health and our daily living and taking care of ourselves and, our day-to-day. That doesn't mean that depression doesn't exist and all the mental health issues don't exist. And I'm not sure our world is making it any easier, but at the same time, there are choices and things that we can make and help each other from a familial standpoint and from a cultural standpoint that I think might benefit us if we just slow down a little bit.
Yeah, thank you for your call. Be right back with more of your calls on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
And we're talking about MAID today and whether MAID should be allowed if someone's only medical condition is mental illness. The government plans to allow that in the spring of 2027. 1-833-668-2577 is our call-in line. Mary is up next. Hi, Mary. You're on the air.
Hi.
Hi, Mary.
I'm strongly for having people with severe mental illness being allowed to do it. And the reason being is that there are many that, like the one caller had said, didn't have anybody that stuck by them, or the family has not stayed with them. And so, unfortunately, they can get so severe that that's why you have so many of them that end up on the streets and such. And so they could end up dying of horrible deaths. And the thing is, people with severe depression need help. Yes, we have lots of ways of treating and helping, but when you're severe, you can't get yourself there. So until the government can afford to assign someone to be an advocate for each of those type of people that will hang in there and help them get to their appointments and keep them on top of their medications, or make sure they get for their special therapies and counseling, then yes, they're there, but they can't get there because they can just end up. I'm speaking because I do have my husband was severely depressed, and so much so he'd be for months just in the bottom part of the house, in the farthest corner, in the basement, on the couch, all day long. And even though he had loving family and everything, it took a lot. And if I hadn't, just as his wife hadn't have drugged him, threatened to call the ambulance to haul him into the hospital to have him put him in the psych ward, he wouldn't have made it. And he is a positive result of how the treatments we have nowadays are effective. He ended up getting
that's good.
Deep brain stimulation, and he is now doing really, really well. And he's on, stays on all these, like he's on a lot of medications still, and was introduced to a kind of a trial treatment on another drug that also helped in combination. But he would never got there on his own. So I just
but you're not suggesting. And excuse me if I may have just misinterpreted what you're saying, and if I did, I apologize. But you're not suggesting though that the government should allow this because it would be the more affordable option for the government, are you?
I'm not. I don't care about the government affording, but I'm pretty positive they can't afford it. So, to supply to give an advocate to each person. So I could sort of see this being an option they can give out of just caring for how these people end up. People, don't realize how bad they can get. And, I don't know what the percentage is of the people that are homeless and on the streets, but a lot of them, I'm sure, have major depression and just have no means of getting treatment because they get so low. Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you for your call. I'm glad your husband is doing better. I appreciate that. And that's it for hour number one. Very interesting discussion so far. A full hour is just ahead and lots of time to take your phone calls in hour number two on the topic of MAID and mental illness today and the pending expansion of MAID eligibility for people whose only medical condition is a mental illness. Seeking your opinion on that. Do you think that's the right thing to do, the wrong thing to do? Have your say on Talkback today on News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Talking about MAID today on Talkback. Welcome to hour number two. I'm Rob Snow, asking if MAID should be allowed if someone's only medical condition is mental illness. I was citing, it's an annual report that comes out from the government on MAID. 16,500 procedures of MAID performed in this country last year. When that day arrives for those Canadians, the most common place that takes place is at home. It's about 37% of the time. Second most common location in a hospital, followed by a palliative care facility. But Canada has the most permissive MAID regime in the world. The Netherlands is second on the list. Canada, though, does twice as many MAID procedures as the Netherlands already, and there could be more happening in the future if this expansion goes ahead. And again, it's supposed to come into effect in March of 2027. And at the time, if the person only suffers from a mental illness, the person would still be eligible for MAID. And we want to know: do you think that should be allowed? 1-833-668-2577, Lunenburg, Nova Scotia. Sam is up next. Hi, Sam.
Hey, Rob. Look, I missed the pipeline chat on Friday. I was hoping to just chime in on that, if that's okay.
And not talk about MAID?
Yeah. Or did you want to...
well, we're going to do a free-for-all tomorrow anyway, because I'm away on Friday. So why don't you call back tomorrow? Because we've talked about pipeline stuff for days and days and days on end. We're into something else here today, Sam. I'm going to have to move along. Let's go to Sarah up next in Calgary. Thank you, Sarah, for calling.
Hi.
Hi, Sarah.
So I have some opinions about this.
Yes.
I'm a mental health professional working in Alberta.
Okay.
And I've worked in the field for many years, and I think before we can even have the conversation about MAID, I think we need to address accessibility. There's a huge accessibility issue that people that are struggling with mental health can't even access services, and it's usually not because there's a lack of therapists, a lack of psychologists. It's because of usually finances.
Cost.
Or long wait lists, right?
Right.
So, for example, I'll speak for Alberta, but to get access through Alberta Health Services, most of the clients I know are minimum 6-month wait lists, right? And that's for free services. Most of the time, the long-term care within the mental health field is not actually long-term. It caps at a certain number of sessions. And you see different therapists every time you renew.
Right. So you're not building a relationship. You're not building a one-on-one relationship. So are you talking about, let's say, through the public system in Alberta, such as it is, and it operates this way all across the country? If you're not accessing, say, a private psychologist for whatever the going rate for that is now, it's probably $200 an hour. You'll wait 6 months to access someone who can offer you something like CBT, for example, cognitive behavioral therapy. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly, yes. And like
right, okay.
In Alberta, it's $220 now is the recommended for an hour of private practice, like to see private practice psychologists. But like at the same time, we are, paying doctors hundreds of dollars for a 5-minute, meeting with the patient, but we're not addressing the major concerns of mental health across the country, right? So if people are not able to access services, how can we even start to discuss MAID, right? Another thing, so that's kind of my major point, is the accessibility issue. Another thing, and I think this might not be as popular of an opinion, but I'm going to try to say it with as much sensitivity as possible.
Yes.
With mental health, even long-term mental health, it fluctuates over time, right? So I'm just going to use depression as an example. Somebody says, I've had depression for 20 years, right? That doesn't mean the same thing across the board for the 20 years, right? There's, depression can look different, like one day versus a week versus a month, right? So it could look different across the board. So if we're capturing these people on times that are rough, in isolation, we live in Canada, and you're telling me 95% of the people that access MAID are white. We live in an individualistic country, right? Where individualism is, it's not very communal. You don't have as much communal compared to other countries in the world. So that is, and I think somebody kind of mentioned that earlier, is that we could be addressing those sorts of things, giving support in those kind of areas, and not leaving people to kind of fend for themselves, right? Because it could look different across the board. Now, with that being said, because it can fluctuate so much, you never know what's on the other side. And I've worked with many people that, will say, okay, I did X, Y, and Z, but in reality, they were not doing it because they were not in a good place to do it, right? So our treatments, like when you say, I have done this treatment and this treatment and this treatment, are they actually being done, like,
Okay.
right? Like,
so
how
this
much
goes to,
effort
one of our
put?
previous callers said, I've tried everything.
Exactly, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And a lot of people will try everything and things don't work, and that's okay, right? But it also, with how mental health works, there's a big component with motivation, right? And usually if you're struggling with mental health, motivation is low to do things, to get out of bed, so I think there's a lot of things that are going to be in question, and a lot of things that we need to address before we allow this to happen. I'm not totally against it, but I think that we can't just allow it to happen without addressing the bigger issues at play.
Such great points.
If there's no ability for these people to access services, then why are we going to talk about this?
Very good. Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, great points all around. Lots to think about and unpack there. If you want to react to Sarah's call, by all means. This is Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
So when you think about March of 2027 arrives, and under the MAID laws it's currently written, mental illness would be eligible. And only mental illness if someone suffered from mental illness. What do you think about that? Not, just the way things are now, terminal cancer, ALS, Huntington's, but mental illness, depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, PTSD, schizophrenia. MAID for these types of illnesses. Where do you stand on that? Or is that taking MAID in Canada too far? 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. For the first time, we have some free phone lines available. It's been very busy on the topic today. Hess in Waterloo. Thanks for calling, Hess. You're on the air.
Mike, thank you very much for talking about a difficult situation here. I have a question, a two-part question. Does Alzheimer dementia fall under the category of mental illness? And the second part is power of attorney. Who gets to decide if this person should receive MAID?
Okay, I don't know the answers to either of those questions. I wish I did, but I don't.
I didn't think you would. Yeah, my father suffers from acute dementia, and he has absolutely no sense of time and place, duration. He thinks he's back home where we came from, and he doesn't know that he has a son, a wife, and I've suggested this to my mother, who has power of attorney, and I got my head ripped off and placed in my lap, very gently. But that's my question. I thank you very much.
Well, in the case, there's a whole other debate that is raging about the circumstance your father finds himself in. I don't want to get into the family dynamics at your place, but this goes to advance consent for MAID and whether that should be allowed. You know, would your father, for example, want to live in the state that he is in right now, or would he have preferred the chance to get his affairs in order and say, when I reach this point in time, I would like a MAID procedure to happen? That is another debate that is happening, and there's actually legislation from a Canadian senator in the Senate right now, and this is already the law in the province of Quebec and nowhere else.
Yeah. That he's professed that he doesn't want to live anymore, but no one will listen to him, and the poor guy just sits in a chair stares at the wall, and he watches kids shows on TV, like the cartoons, you know. Mm-hmm. I wonder if that's a mental illness or not, but I thank you very much for taking my call.
Thank you for your call. Yeah, all the best to you. Jonathan is in Calgary. Do we have Jonathan on the line?
Hi, Rob. Thank you for
you're welcome, call. Jonathan. Yeah, good to hear your voice again. What's your opinion?
Great show. It's a very, very big topic and very heavy. And thank you for bringing this up, Rob. Your intention is really very productive and really catches everybody, especially me as well. It's my take on this. I disagree, though.
You disagree? Okay.
It's way too much.
Okay.
To be quick, I will cite this as an example. It's like the government is like if the government is considered this, it's like the government is like choosing between the bad apples and the good apples. And apples is easy, but these are human lives. These are people. Lots of them give sacrifices to the country, and they went through a lot. They deserve dignity and support. I disagree with that because it's
okay.
In a moral barometer, it's way too far. And to me, to address I know it requires a lot of money, resources, care, support, especially to the families. And to the government's side, the government can save a lot of money on this one. That's good for the monetary side for the council, but as a human side, no, it's wrong.
Yeah. What does that say about the value of human life, if that's what the government would prefer to do? Which I'm not saying that's the motivation here, but yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, one more thing, Rob. I don't know if this is fall in the category of disability, like in our insurance, private and CPP. I don't know if the mental health is considered. It should be considered one of the disability to get the help, so that they have money, at least the family have at least money to support. I don't know if this category of mental health is considered or fall into the category of or short-term disability.
I have no knowledge about that. Yeah. Thank you, though, Jonathan. Thank you for your kind words today. 1-833-668-2577, and have your say on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Should MAID be allowed if someone's only medical condition is mental illness? We are on track to allow that in this country in about a year and a half. What do you think? Eric is in Calgary. Thanks for calling, Eric.
Hey, no problem. Listening to some of the callers that you've had and the pain that they are experiencing from mental health issues, some cases 15 years and more, treatments, exhausted, and just want to exit the stage. And I think that under those circumstances where individuals have had treatments, they are fully aware of their circumstances. They are in tremendous pain. And that's the hard part, is mental pain isn't the same as if you pointed at somebody that's got stage 4 cancer or, has experienced severe burns to their body or that sort of thing. But it can be just as debilitating. And so in my point of view, I think, yes, those individuals with proper consultation, I would probably say 2 psychologists to sign off on it, should have the right to do this. And I also think that if the government is going to do this, there should be an equity piece. And when I say an equity piece, I mean that all individuals in that situation, whether they happen to be living on the streets or, in their own home, should have access to this. Okay. And you also brought up that point that 95% of people who have had MAID, that's available now have happened to be Caucasian. And I think to try and answer that, I would probably hazard a guess that, of the other communities that are not participating, there's probably a more there's much more adherence to religion, and there is probably a stigma within their community when it comes to assisted dying. But regardless of that, I have no problems with it. If I suffered from mental health and decided after years of anguish that it was my time, I would rather have the option of doing it this way with a doctor's help than sitting in a car and breathing in exhaust fumes or jumping in front of a train. And
Fair
that
enough.
is happening.
Yeah, sure it is. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Eric. Yep. Very well reasoned and argued, sir. Thank you. Tom in Cambridge up next. Hi, Tom.
Hello.
Yeah. Hi, Tom. What's your opinion, Tom?
Okay. First of all, I heard the guy talking about is dementia classified as mental health? No, it's not, because that's a brain function. So no, they don't classify Alzheimer's or dementia as mental health. I have mental health myself. I have bipolar stage 1 and 2, PTSD, and depression. There is a lot of resources out there to help, and there's also group chat. Like, you can go into groups and talk to other people that might be able to give you some advice on helping. So with this MAID thing, I say no. It shouldn't be, because because mental health is everybody is different when it has a mental health situation. So some might be worse off that they can't make that decision, but they want to have it. Like, it just, no, I don't think that's right.
You think it's just taking it too far, too permissive?
Way too far.
Way too far. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, look, all the best to you. Thank you. Thank you thank you to all the callers today. I mean, some of the callers have just been so courageous in sharing the details of their lives and their struggles. And I appreciate that. I really do. Take it to heart. It's very helpful in a discussion like this today. It's such an emotional topic. More of your calls after the news on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
MAID for mental illness. Should that be allowed in this country? It could be in about a year and a half if the existing law is not changed. What do you say? 1-833-668-2577. It's been quite busy on the topic today, but there are free lines available, and I assure you the wait will not be long. Trent is in Calgary. Thanks for calling, Trent. What do you think, Trent?
Hi, Rob.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking my call. I've always listened to your show and have always really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much.
I don't really have much to say, but what I would like to say is that I listened to a podcast last night called The Blender Report, and it's the dark truth about MAID.
Oh, and really? Okay.
It really opened my eyes. You had a previous caller earlier mentioned something about how the government was, there was nefarious, plans behind all of this. This woman that they interview points those out, and holy smokes, I couldn't believe that what sounded like truth.
Okay. I can't speak to whether there are nefarious motives. The government had to write a MAID law because the court forced it to. The court said the existing ban on doctor-assisted suicide violated the Charter of Rights, two specific sections of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Section 7 and Section 15. And it said, so now there's no law. We'll give you a year to write a new one. And this is what it did. It had to. It had no choice. And it had to come up with a MAID law kind of in the post-charter era, if you will. So.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. And I wish I had better description of what this woman was talking about. She has tons of experience with it. Please, all your listeners, listen to the Blender Report, okay?
Okay. I'm not familiar with it, so I'm not going to endorse it. But I guess what I want to get at is, I guess what I want to get at is you think 30 years ago, a very similar case in the Sue Rodriguez case in the early 1990s. Sue Rodriguez had ALS and had to go all the way to the Supreme Court, and she lost in 1993, right? And now here we are in 2025, and now it's we've gone from it's against the law, it amounts to murder, and you'll be charged with murder if you do it, to this situation. And some people didn't like the fact that MAID was allowed in the first place and fought against us. And then the law was changed. It became what some people would say more permissive. And in 2027, eligibility will be expanded again to people who only suffer from mental illness. And there are some who think it's gone too far, like the previous caller, Tom in Cambridge said, it's going way too far.
There's a lot of resources out there that can help with mental illness and that kind of thing. And I think by talking about this is a great direction to maybe get people to, search out the help that they need. It's such an important topic, Rob, and I just want to show you.
I just want to raise awareness of kind of where things stand and where they're going, and gauge kind of the court of public opinion whether people are on board with this. Some people are. Many people aren't. Thank you. Thank you for your call, Trent. I'm going to move along. I have to take another call here. Let's go to Donna is in Calgary. Hi, Donna.
Hi, how are you?
Very good, Donna. Thank you. What do you think, Donna?
I just watched my sister go through the MAID. She had stage 4 cancer and suffered for the last couple of years. And I'm telling you, I wasn't really for it at the beginning. And, once I watched her suffer and what she went through, boy, I'll tell you, it was the most peaceful thing I've ever seen in my life. She had all the family around her. She was in hospice. They took her outside, the wind in her hair, the sun in her face, and I mean, she's out of pain now. As far as for the mental part of it, I can't really answer on that because, she didn't have that. But I mean, it's either your body or your mind. So, I mean, either way, I think it should be up to the individual and to the families. But like I said, I would, anybody that's ever asked me about it, I said, well, you may not agree with it. And because of religious beliefs, my sister went through, boy, I'll tell you, it was a godsend. So I won't keep you on.
Well,
I just wanted to give my opinion.
Yeah. Again, I come back to this. This expansion of MAID. There are supporters and critics, and you're on the side of the supporters, and think that this. And thank you for your call. That this should be a decision up to the individual, along with their family and their doctor, say, for example. Right? It's about personal autonomy, personal freedom, personal choice, those sorts of things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And like I said, it was a godsend after watching her suffer for so long. So just my opinion.
Okay.
You have a great day.
I thank you for sharing your opinion. Yeah, but I want to raise the other side because there are many concerns. And we have heard this. Think about people who have to rely on social assistance, for example, or live in inadequate housing, or have nothing but a disability check to live off of in this day and age. We have had stories in the news media about people living in those conditions who say, I have no quality of life, and I think I'd be better off seeking out MAID. Well, that's not allowed right now. Being depressed about your lot in life does not make you eligible for MAID. In 2027, it might. Are you okay with that? And we've heard it raised repeatedly here. There are treatments for most mental illnesses, and maybe some treatments are lacking. Maybe there are long wait lines. That's a matter of resources. But mental illness can be managed and it can be treated. And we don't need MAID for mental illness. That's what the critics to this would say. 1-833. What would you say on Talkback on News Radio?
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Again, we are asking, should MAID be allowed if someone's only medical condition is mental illness? Kathy in Airdrie. What's your opinion, Kathy?
Hi there. I guess my opinion is having a family that suffers with mental illness, they have the support of their family. So I guess if it came down to somebody that has exhausted everything and they don't have any support, I think it's a better way for people to go instead of taking their own lives on their own and somebody finding them.
Okay.
I just find that there aren't a lot of resources, and this has been an ongoing 25-year 25 years of this person's life, and it's not easy to get resources, and it costs money, and people, if you don't have the money, you don't find the help. And we've lost people because we know that they don't have the help, and it's really unfortunate.
Okay.
So
thank you.
I'm just thinking that there's another side, right? So.
Oh yeah. I guess with this one, as I'm learning as we make our way throughout the day, there are many sides to this, Kathy. Thank you. Tom in Cambridge up next. Hi, Tom.
How are you, Rob?
Very good, Tom. What's your opinion?
The opinion is like if you take it from a religious point of view, it's not the right section, not the right direction. So
yeah,
I
we haven't really done that today. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not for it. I think
You're not for it.
No, not for assisted death because that means you're committing suicide. That's what happened. That's the bottom line.
Okay. But you're opposed to that on, are you saying you're opposed to that on religious grounds?
Well, yes, it's the only grounds that make sense. Like
okay.
You cannot, like they won't take you into church.
Right. Okay. So you're viewing it through that lens then.
Well, right. There's no other lens. I mean, somebody on the other side or whatever. Like you can use
clearly,
anything you want.
Clearly there are because there were 25,000 applications for MAID last year, and 16,000 people chose, for various reasons, I suppose, to access it last year and end their lives using MAID.
I know. Yeah, I know, but I can't see it as a way out. So that's where I stand.
Okay. Right. On moral grounds, which all fair and good. Thank you, Tom. John in Calgary. John up next on Talkback. Hi, John.
Hi, this is John.
Yeah. Hi, John. What's your opinion, John?
Well, having just a personal experiences with my mother here in April, that I believe that the MAID program has not developed enough to even handle the cases that they have now. The incident with my mother in particular. Yeah, there's a lot of paperwork involved, and my mother signed on to the MAID program with stage 4 cancer, and it was a failed attempt. The whole family was there. The doctor was there. She was prepped. And due to an error in paperwork, the MAID action could not take place, and the doctor left, and there we were all left. And just with a very basic kind of nominal level, so that for the spectrum of involving mental illness and having the MAID program qualify as a resource, I would tread very carefully, and those that are considering it, make sure everything is baby stepped all the way.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay. You just don't think the system is the way it is set up is really equipped to deal with it.
Yeah, I had to watch my mother get probed for access in kind of inflated arms for 45 minutes, trying to get access for intravenous, and indoctrinated by doctors. And it's I even went back just because it was a failed attempt. My mother's wishes, it failed at that. And to reapply for MAID, she ended up becoming unconscious and couldn't give consent, verbal consent. And the consent form didn't match the date. So the MAID process couldn't take place because of a date.
Oh my goodness.
I went back, infuriated, to the hospice, asking what happened with all the paperwork and the case manager. Why was this not taken care of, the paperwork? And I was informed by the staff that there are problems with the MAID program. It's not a new thing. So just anyone considering, just be very careful. That's all I have.
Thank you for raising awareness about that today. Good to know, John. Thank you. Be right back with more of your calls on Talkback today on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Let's go to Eleanor in Alberta today. Eleanor, on MAID for mental illness. What is your position on that, Eleanor?
Oh, hi, Rob. I would be a hard no on that. Can you hear me
hard
okay?
No. Yeah, I hear you just fine.
A hard no. Yeah, unless something has changed. One of the safety nets that used to be a criteria for MAID, assisted death, was a sound mind. You had to make that decision under a sound mind, and you had to pass like a psychological testing. Now, people suffering from mental health, I understand that is that horrible way to live, but isn't the point? They are not in a sound mind. You know, for murder cases or whatever, people get off because they weren't in a sound mind. So how can we consider their decision being a
well,
sound
I think
mind
being, you know, suffering from, say, some kind of mania or bipolar disorder, anxiety, depression, PTSD, whatever, you know, that's different than, say, I don't know, insanity, is it not?
Well, it can still be a person with bipolar or whatever can be get off in a court of law because they weren't responsible for their actions. So to me, that's just the safety net that we're throwing out. And a few comments have been about we don't have the funding for mental health care. And I just feel that's so sad that our society would use that as an excuse to let people take their lives because we can't help you. We can't. You know, we have had a very close person to our family take their own life with suicide, and just the devastation and the pain that was left. I don't know how that would have been better should they have sought medical assistance. The outcome would be the same. The pain and the sorrow for the families would be the same. So that's mine. I feel quite passionate about this. I feel the same for
hard no.
We need more palliative care. Yeah, hard no.
Okay. Yeah, hard no. Okay, thank you. And Mike in Kitchener will be up next and last on today's topic. Hi, Mike.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, very good, Mike. What's your opinion?
I think for that, I would actually say it would depend on the situation. The reason why I'll say a couple of things. I have a friend too that are going through the MAID process right now for a family member, and it's because because all of their conditions, their health conditions, have just deteriorated. There's no other option left, and it's a way to basically pass peacefully without being in pain. I can see that part. My family friend, probably about 25 years ago, he took him out with a shotgun, and the family found him about 2 minutes after he did it. So that kind of scene for people, like everyone says, this is traumatic for people if they go off and they their lives, but it's more traumatic to take it away without other measures that might not be as nice, per se. I think it should. And the health system itself. If you feel like you are gonna be harmful for yourself, you can't even check yourself into a psychiatric ward. Only if you are going to be harmful to some other person. The one other aspect, though, too, that people.
Okay, I'm not sure about that, but.
Well, it's not.
Okay.
A lot of people are saying it's against it. That's an issue with the church. The Roman Catholic Church actually allows you to be buried if you committed suicide in the head for the last 20 to 25 years. So that's not an argument on that side of it either.
All right. Okay. Thank you. We're right out of time, Mike. We're going to have to wrap up our conversation today. Again, thank you. Heavy duty stuff, I know. Lighter fare coming tomorrow. But I wanted to get that topic out there and have a serious discussion about it. And I think it was mission accomplished today because of you. Thank you. Be back tomorrow. Brand new topics. More of your calls. Always the latest breaking news on News Radio